Good morning, you're listening to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning my guest is Kaye Gosline, who's a freelance color consultant based in Dalton, Georgia. Kaye, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent.
Good to talk to you. You've been a correspondent for Floor Focus for some time. I know you just got back from Miami where you were down with the color marketing group. I thought maybe you could share with us some of the highlights of that meeting.
I would love to.
Okay.
You know, Miami is just a great place to have a conference, except for this year, of course, when we were fighting Sandy just offshore. But we managed to survive that, and shout out to all of our friends up and down the East Coast. Our hearts and prayers are with them.
Yeah, this is a rough day. It hit last night. So when it came by Miami, what did you see weather-wise down there?
We had a tour of South Beach planned on Friday afternoon, and it was a little bit rainy and overcast, but we were very fortunate that we got in a tour of that Art Deco district. You know, part of the joy of going to a color marketing conference is experiencing the local environment. And South Beach is a National Historic Monument, not because of necessarily the quality of the Art Deco there, but the quantity. There are over 1,200 Art Deco buildings in that very short strip along the beach. So it was very inspirational and always great to get out and experience architecture and color and have a glass of wine while you're doing it.
That area is doing very well, and they can thank Miami Vice for bringing that area back a little bit.
That's very true.
Let me ask you this. You were just down there, the color marketing group. Used to get together 2 times a year. Now they've changed that. It's just 1 time a year, but they celebrated, this was the 50th anniversary, wasn't it?
Yes, what a significant monument that is. You know, the organization started in 1962, and it was really a very different organization when it started. Its roots were very much around the technology side of color, and then it began to morph into an organization that really was about members participating. And at the peak, I'm trying to remember, we probably had about 1,600 members who specified color for everything that you can think of, from floor covering, wall covering, consumer product, anything and everything to do with color. Today, the organization is not quite that large, but the role of color forecasting has changed, I think, primarily because of the digital economy and how readily available color information is out there on the Internet. It's not like experiencing it firsthand, but there is a lot of great information out there on websites of all kinds.
You know, a lot of people say that the fashion trends start in Europe and then move this way, and I guess the color marketing group, they factor a lot of that in and get a lot of their input from Europe, don't they?
The world has changed so much because of the availability of information. You know, today you see something on the runway in Milan, and with fast retailers like H&M, you can see it in a store the next week. You know, it won't be the same quality, it won't be exactly the same design, but the colors and the patterns themselves can be very, very similar. I think that's why you're seeing not so much of the routine that we used to have, where you would see something in fashion, and then it would take 6 to 9 months, and you would begin to see it maybe in a few upper-end kind of home accessories, and then maybe a year after that it would hit mass market. But today, product development cycles, because of the technology for manufacturing and for visualizing products, has changed. You know, those product development cycles are extremely short now, and your speed to market is what separates the winners from the losers. I don't think there's that rigid kind of flow that we used to have from Europe to America, from fashion to home. It's more like little pop-ups. You know, somebody with a great eye will see something on fashion and they'll interpret it in a totally different way for consumer electronics or for eyewear or paper clips or, you know, any kind of product. And there's much more spontaneity of design and color trends, which for a long time had really, really slowed down, are beginning to speed up again, because consumers demand something new and fresh all the time.
All right, so talk to us a little bit about, I know there was seminars you attended, but then they also, don't you come up with somewhat of a color palette? Talk just briefly about that, if you would.
Sure. This year was, again, an unusual year because rather than doing on-site workshops, which we've done for 49 years, starting in 2012, they had about a dozen local workshops where color marketing group members got together on a regional basis. And you could go to any one that you wanted. You know, I could have gone to South America, to the Latin American workshop, or to Europe, or to Asia, or there were about 10 of them here in North America, 3, I think, in Canada. And the local workshops then created their own palette. And before this conference, a small group of people in a steering committee got together, and they distilled from that a global palette for CMG, which is a first. We got color chips for each of the regions, and then we got access to a global palette, if you will.
In years past, they say that color kind of flows and ebbs with the economy.
You're right, Kemp. I mean, go all the way back to the Great Depression. You know, things were very gloomy, but yet you had depression glass because people wanted some color in their dull, drab lives.
Right.
And small glass accessories were a way that they could add color. And I think that the thing that I've seen, and this is the theory according to Kaye, is that when there's uncertainty in the economy, you'll see a lot more interest in secondary colors like oranges and greens and purples. And you think about it, that's really where we've been now for the last few years. There's been a ton of green, and purple is definitely the color of 2012. And, you know, what could be more ambivalent? You know, sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it can be gray-black purple. So I think that expresses our uncertainty. The forecast going forward tends to have more interest around the primary colors. You know, I'm looking at the North American palette, and there are something like 5 or 6 blues in it. If you look globally, there was a lot of interest in blue. That seemed to be one of the key drivers. But likewise, there was also a lot of interest in red, like a lip stain, intense pink. Still, red is going to be your attention-getting color. And then yellow has emerged in that acid yellow, really chromatic yellow for an attention-getter. So I think maybe we're moving to a time where we're predicting there's going to be more stability and a little bit more confidence moving forward.
Well, that's exactly what I was looking for. It was just a little bit of a review of what happened down there in Miami. I appreciate you spending time with us. Again, we've been talking to Kaye Gosline, who is a freelance color consultant based in Dalton, Georgia. And you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.